You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. I am Daniel.
I am Clint. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the people. Who is in the third window that we got going on today?
Hey, good evening, guys. I'm Josh, also known on the Twitter as @DogStats. And I'm happy to be here getting ready for the SEC Championship game with you guys. I appreciate you having me on.
And the reason that I'm letting Josh introduce himself is because y'all get over on Twitter right now. You follow this man. And
just
you
do
just
it.
soak in the glory that is the stats. Do what we say right now. Don't question.
Do it.
Hey, do as I say, not as I do. Okay? But it happens.
We actually do follow him on Twitter.
I was just going to say, we actually do follow him. So do both of those things. Daniel and I are fans of UGA, which is why we made this podcast. We're so glad to be here. Josh is also a fan of all things glorious with football, but statistics, well and good. And that's why I invited him on this podcast today with us. Glad you guys are here. We're going to break down the defenses of Georgia and Alabama. Yesterday, we talked about the offense with John, where strengths of both sets of units. Today, we're going to talk about the defense for Bama, for Georgia. We're going to see statistically where we land. Here's a hint. It's high.
It's near the top.
Josh, some may say. We're going to let Josh talk about those things. Daniel.
Yeah, let's jump into this conversation. By the way, thank you for following and subscribing and ratings and reviews and comments and thumbs up and all those things that you do. The audio podcast can be found on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever. The video is on YouTube. If that's where you're finding us, check out the audio. If you're finding us on audio, check out the video. All those things are great. Thank you to all of you who have made the show so popular as we run up to the SEC Championship. All right, it's Wednesday, and as Clint said, we're focused on defense. So let's jump in. Georgia, I think obviously the narrative is a bit flipped from yesterday, Clint. So yesterday we're talking about offense, and the national media narrative on these offenses is Alabama Heisman Trophy frontrunner of a quarterback. Sure. Georgia barely a game manager as a quarterback. Alabama high-powered, downfield, explosive offense. Georgia pedestrian, manage the clock, run out the game type of offense. And we talked about how those narratives were. The narratives are kind of flipped in terms of defense. Georgia's defense has been the talk of college football this year. And it's gotten some Alabama fans a little bit salty, I think, because Alabama's defense has not exactly been maligned by the national media. They would never do that to Nick Saban. But they have certainly not been what we think of as a typical Alabama defense for now the second year in a row. Might have something to do with that guy that you have as the defensive coordinator. I don't know, but could be. So, Josh, when you look at this Alabama defense, Clint and I have a perception that, for example, the tackling is bad, that the defense is soft, that Alabama's defense is nothing like what it was. When you look at this Alabama defense statistically, is it that bad, or are they somewhere in the middle?
I think they're actually pretty good. They, like one of the things that during the early part of the season, I was concerned about the Georgia offense because I was looking at the potential matchup with Alabama, and Alabama gets better every game. And they did. They did regressed a little bit at the end here on offense, but the defense steadily got better. I mean, they're like, let me see here. They are like 11th. They're averaging. Sorry, you got too many spreadsheets open here. Stay with me.
All the spreadsheets.
That's literally never my problem, Josh. I've never said those words before in my entire life.
Their success rate on defense is 37%. It's really good. It's top 10, and they've played some better offenses than Georgia. I'm going to say that. We didn't have to play Ole Miss, and Miami's a better team offensively than Clemson is. So they're a good team. They're a good defense. It's going to be a low scoring game. And I just hope we can score one more point than them.
Yeah, you said you ranked them comparatively to Georgia on that list. So what was the metric you just gave out? They ranked 13th. What metric are you using for that?
Okay, so here I got my spreadsheet now. So they're allowing 4.6 yards per play, and Georgia's allowing 3.7 yards per play defensively. Georgia's first, and in fact, Georgia will go into the college football playoff with the first time as a defense allowing less than 4 yards per play. That's up there with the best Alabama teams on defense and the best Clemson teams on defense. So obviously that's first this year. Yeah, Alabama's 8th in defensive yards per play. And then success rate is one of those things we talk about a lot, and their success rate on defense is they are 17th and Georgia's first. And that 17th is not great, but it's still pretty good. I mean, that's all of 130 power teams. It's not just Power 5. So you've probably got some Group of 5 and other teams in there mixed in that if you sort it out by Power 5, they're probably top 10.
Yeah, Clint, I'm going to let you, as we talk about the Alabama defense in this first segment, I'm going to give you the honor of talking about where it is that you see them struggle, because I know that you've had that locked and loaded for weeks.
I've had it locked and loaded for weeks, y'all. Here's my question. I'm going to give you my perception.
Go ahead.
Daniel, you finish.
No, go ahead. Yeah, you start, and then I'm going to talk about what I see them excel at.
There we go. That's great. So I got 3 areas, and you tell me if my eyeballs are lying, if the metrics back up my eyeballs, or if the metrics my eyeballs are defying what is actually happening. I don't know if you've charted the rush defense of Bama as it pertains to when Will Anderson is playing defensive end or when he's playing outside backer, and what happens then, because Will Anderson is a beast, y'all. Look at me right now.
I was supposed to talk about what they do well, just so we're clear.
But he becomes above average to good when he plays defensive end. So I saw him play a lot of defensive end against Auburn. He was inside the tackle on a lot of plays. He wasn't out in space, and I think he looked less like Superman for this defense. That's the first area. Are my eyes lying to me, Josh?
Unfortunately, I don't get to get snap counts and where they play. I can tell you that he's PFF, whatever you want to say about him, and his run grade is 79.8, which is really good. 40 tackles, only 3 missed. But so I do think that he is a man that's asked to do a lot of things, and a man that does a lot of things needs to do one thing well. And I mean, I think you're right. I think when he's leaned on to do something off the edge, he's not going to be as good. So, the stats prove that that Alabama is quite good against the run, and maybe not as good against the pass. So maybe that's when he's playing, defensive end and he's trying to get some pressures on the quarterback. That maybe that is not as good a position for him, and maybe the Alabama pass metrics kind of prove that out.
Yes, the second area that I see weakness is this secondary. I see missed assignments. I see blown coverages. I see guys running free for days in the secondary. And most importantly, tight ends running free for days up the seams and in the middle against this defensive back unit. Are my eyes deceiving me? You just said they're not good pass defensively. Talk a little bit more about that.
They're good. It's definitely they're better on run defense. I'm looking at, Henry Toe. I can't even say his name. I mean, he's 27 receptions on 34 targets. And, the PFF grade there, take it for what you want, is a 46.8, which is the lowest on their squad. Yeah.
No.
And, by comparison, our linebackers are giving up, under 6 yards per reception. Henry is giving up 9.6. I'm seeing a lot of their linebackers giving up 8.6, 10.8 yards per catch. And that's where, it's one thing, linebackers are going to give up receptions and coverage. They're not, but they've got to wrap them up and tackle. And that's what the Georgia defense does quite well. And it may be the Alabama defense, not quite as much. So maybe, those slants and those little, curl routes to Bowers might be some places where Monken can dial up some success.
Clint, you've lost your ability. You've lost your ability to talk about what Alabama does poorly because it's taken you this long. Josh had to bring up Henry To'oTo'o's name. You wouldn't even do it. Now listen,
it's on
listen to
my
me.
list.
The man was heralded as the greatest transfer to ever hit the market. Alabama broke college football when they got him because the rich get richer. Isn't this ridiculous how good this guy is? I watched the Florida game, and I watched the man single-handedly miss 132 tackles. I counted them. I charted them just like Josh does. I went through every play, and I watched. He missed 132 tackles in the Florida game. He could not bring anybody to the ground. And now you're telling me, Josh, that when he drops back into coverage, that he is suspect to say the least. Now, Georgia's got a lot of strengths on the offense, and we're not supposed to be talking about the Georgia offense. But I dare say that the greatest of those strengths is going to be matched up against Henry To'oTo'o in coverage often. And his name, as Josh has already said, is Brock Bowers. And so already, if you're the Alabama defensive schemers, game planners, if you're putting together a plan to play against this Georgia offense, already I think you have to go into the game trying to compensate for someone right out of the gate. You're having to try to shift matchups and get away from man-to-man coverage or single coverage on the tight end when he's out over the middle. And so that puts you one step behind the eight ball already. It puts Todd Monken 2 steps out in front because Henry To'oTo'o is a liability. I mean, and I'll just say it. Alabama is very good from my eyes. Alabama's very good up front. Will Anderson is not the only guy on that defensive front, but he is the best guy on that defensive front. But there's other dudes around him, and check back in on Friday and talk to me about what I'm nervous about this game, and you will hear his name come up again. But once you get past that, on to the second and the third level, I think the Alabama defense really starts to have some holes. And so, can Georgia run the ball? That's a big question. Can Stetson Bennett make them pay on the back end? That's a big question. Can the Georgia offensive line hold up in pass pro? That's a big question. All these things we will talk about. We got more to cover on the defense. We'll shift to Georgia's defense. Hold that thought, Josh, when we come back right after this.
First, I want to know about Prize Picks. College football fanatics, have you heard about Prize Picks? Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. I love this. We love this. And know you will too. Prize Picks is a leader in college sports daily fantasy, offers more college football props than anyone else in the world. All the star players of the Power 5, as well as mid-major players you have not even heard of. Prize Picks offers any prop you can think of, from yardage to touchdowns, even interceptions thrown. All of the users right now that head over to prizepicks.com, put in the promo code locked on, get 100% deposit up to $100. That means you put $100 in, they're going to match it $100 right on top with promo code locked on. You pick 2 to 5 players over under their projections. You can earn up to 10 times on any entry. It allows mixed sports entries. You take the over on LeBron combined with the under of Mahomes in the same entry. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds. It's that easy. PrizePicks safe and offers fast withdrawals. Don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com. Use promo code locked on, or go to your App Store and download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy.
Josh, I cut you off before the break. Jump in. What were you going to go with?
Well, I was just going to talk about, Christian Harris. I mean, you're looking at some of these, yards after catch. I mean, they are definitely susceptible there. So I think, to reiterate some of those points, that yes, they're very good against the run. And I just think that this brand of offense that Georgia's running, I know we're supposed to be talking about the defense, I just don't think you're going to see. Yeah, it's like, why? It's like nobody runs on Georgia because you can't. I think that's what Georgia's going to look at with. Sure, they're going to try it, but if it's not there, that's not the only thing the only arrow in our quiver. We might have to pass the ball 42 to 45 times, and I think this offense is prepared to do that, and that's what you may have to do against the Alabama defense. So why beat your head against the wall? This is what we've asked for as Georgia fans, is to stop running into stacked boxes. So let's spread them out.
No one tell Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler that, because they will not be able to handle it. They will question why Stetson Bennett is throwing the ball so much.
He's legally obligated to throw under 17 times a game, according to Gary.
He's not able to do it, I think, is why he doesn't do it often. It's not because we're blowing teams out and trying to run the clock out so no one gets injured. All right. Let's shift our focus to the Georgia defense. I know we've talked to you about this Georgia defense before, Josh. A couple of games have been played since then. But you've already talked about a historic defense. You've talked about them being compared to some of the all-time great defenses. Obviously, this Georgia defense excels against the run. You just mentioned it. No one runs the ball on Georgia. Also, pretty good against the pass. Really good at getting after the passer. I'm going to start here. Are there weaknesses on the Georgia defense? If you're the Alabama offensive coordinator, and Lord knows Bill O'Brien is probably listening to this podcast looking for help because he needs it.
He can't find it anywhere else.
If you're him, are there weaknesses to attack?
I think the weakness is just like with every team, is like getting explosive chunk plays. And that's going to be, it's all about getting pressure on Bryce Young and, forcing him off his spot. I mean, I think the game plan will be similar to what we saw against DJ Ngalea. I mean, the hardest names with names. I should be better at this. Hardest. But yeah, if they can, that's the game plan going to be. So if the O-line for Bama can give him time, or if he can elude, or if we miss tackles and some of those guys are running free on break, I can see that being a weakness. I mean, because quarterbacks can only cover so much, especially against the talent that Alabama's got at wide receiver. So I mean, if you're asking me for the weakness, it's that. Yeah, if we can't get to him and they get some plays over the top, but I mean, again, you're throwing at Darian Kendrick and Kelly Ringo, who are some of the best in the SEC at covers, and sometimes like those coverage, if they can hold them down, and that some of those sacks and those pressures can be because of the secondary. They're not, everyone thinks of the pass rushers and the big guys coming up the middle, but if you can make a quarterback hold the ball for a second and a half longer, then that leads to sacks, and that's a lot of time on the secondary as well.
Clint, when you look at the Georgia defense or think about the Georgia defense in this game, give me a name or two that spring to mind as, you might want to, this guy might be primed. This might be a game. And then not just kind of as a wild, wouldn't it be fun if this guy had a good game? But when you look at the matchup against Alabama, who seems like they might be primed for a good day?
In my mind, two easiest answers. Keely Ringo, eat your Wheaties because you are going to be tested. They are going to put whatever Mechie they're going to try to match you up and get you isolated. They're going to use motion. They're going to try to make you on an island by yourself. And
he's going to be there a lot. He's going to be on an island a lot.
Because Dan and Kirby, I don't think are not going to change up their, like, this D got us here, and we're going to keep it there. So look for that flag, that fade to the sideline. I think Keely Ringo is going to be tested often. We might roll. This just in. Dan Jackson, I hope, plays in this game a ton. I hope Dan Jackson plays a ton in this game because he's been sound. And if you're going to tell me that he can be sound on that side of the field, I'm fine with that. Covering 20 years down the field.
He's got a 75.3 grade on PFF coverage, 5.7 yards per catch. You're talking about, you do have to attack somebody. And as good as Kelly Ringo is, he is, he's given up. He's 36 targets, 13 receptions, 3 pass breakups. A 72.2 grade, which is the lowest out of all those guys, which is really, really good. And still, even though he's still only 10.1 yards per catch for a cornerback, that's pretty good.
That's really good.
Yeah, Darian Kendrick is more normal at 15.3. I mean, Kelly Ringo got off to a really good start early in the season, and he's definitely not regressed, but they're throwing to him more often, and he's playing exceptionally well, but that's hardly a weakness. If we're talking Kelly Ringo as our weakness, we're pretty damn good.
Well, that's you said, exactly right. You got to choose. You got to throw at somebody, or get sacked. I guess.
I've got that coverage stuff up here. Yeah, but look at these linebacker yards per catch. Nakobe Dean 4.4 yards per catch. Quay 7.2. Tyndall 5.6. That's almost half as much as what some of these linebackers for Alabama are giving up. So the pass coverage of the linebackers is just sickening. It's so good.
So you're not going to beat us dinking and dunking underneath. That's the thing that I take away from that. Like you're not going to just matriculate the ball down the field, because when you do that, when you make those underneath throws, what you're looking for is for somebody to break one and take it to that. Nobody wants to run a 19 play touchdown drive. You got to hit a big play. And when you throw those underneath routes, what you're looking for is one missed tackle, two missed tackles, and all of a sudden somebody's to the house.
Yep.
Well, you can't do that against Georgia because they don't miss those tackles. They don't.
Yeah, I mean, Nakobe and Quay both have 2 pass breakups each, and Nakobe's got an interception there, 2 interceptions that we all know and love. And their pass coverage grades are 90.8, 80, and Channing Tindall's 82.7. So
I'm sorry.
90.8, he said.
Okay. He said 90.8. You said Alabama's linebackers essentially give up a first down when they're attacked in the passing game. 8 to 10 yards per play.
Certainly a successful play, yes.
A successful play. When you pass against Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Channing Tindall, you don't succeed. These are freaks. And the second guy, Jalen Carter. Daniel, look for Jalen Carter to line up on poor right tackle. I refuse to learn your name because I'm going to disrespect it, right tackle. You already disrespected enough, right tackle for Bama. I ain't going to disrespect you more.
Well, and plus, once he gets pulled and he gets subbed out for somebody else, you'll have to learn that guy's name, and then it becomes a whole thing.
Jalen Carter is going to eat a lot against him.
Yeah. Very similar. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, he leads the team in 17 hurries and an 85.9, pass rush grade, which is actually better. Nakobe Dean's the only one that's got a higher pass rush grade. I'm sorry, Devonta Wyatt's slightly higher, but those guys, Carter and Wyatt, both have 4 sacks each and the teens and quarterback hurries.
Either of those guys favorites to win the Heisman Trophy? No, doesn't. No, apparently not. I have similar logic to you, Clint, but I have a different name. I'm gonna go Nolan Smith. I think. Listen, all fairness, come back today. Yesterday on the pod, we were talking about big time players on the Alabama offense. We would be remiss if we did not mention the left side of that Alabama offensive line is quite good. Particularly the left tackle, quite good. Yeah. He's going to be the first tackle taken in the NFL draft, most likely. He's very, very good at football, left side of the offensive line. Well, Robert Beal's going to be there all day, keeping him busy, keeping him occupied. But then on the other side, you got Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, and number 4 just lined up. And again, this is what the point that John kept making yesterday, but I kept stopping him because he wasn't allowed to talk about the defense. The point he kept making yesterday is if a UAB transfer for Auburn can do that to the right side of the Alabama offensive line, Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith and Devontae Wyatt coming around the corner on a stunt, what are they going to do to the right side of this line? It's going to be ugly, y'all.
It is really going to be ugly. Hey, we're going to come back. We've got a couple more final thoughts to wrap up. But before we come back to that, want to let you know about a couple of the good old sponsors, Daniel. People that have just been here for
the good old boys of the podcast.
Well, I began saying that and I realized that's probably not great. Want to let you about betonline.com. BetOnline has you covered all season long for more props, odds, lines than ever before. As football season continues to march on to the playoffs, which Georgia is certainly going to be a part of, BetOnline remains your number 1 spot for all your sports action this season. Day and I love it. We're going to give out a couple leans and locks tomorrow on the pod. Come out for that. We're going to let you know what we think about Georgia, the point spread, the over-under. Josh is saying take the under, which I don't think he's wrong on that. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC fight to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Also want to let you know about Built Bar. It's the tastiest protein bar on planet Earth. They come in a wide variety of delicious flavors, and all of them are keto approved and delicious and tasty. And all of them can be found at BuiltBar.com. If you go there right now and enter the promo code LOCKEDON15, you'll get a 15% off discount on your first order. That's 1 box, 2 boxes, 3 boxes, a whole case, whatever you want. They do mixed boxes. They do single flavors. There are chocolate flavors, fruit flavors. They come in a wide variety of textures, a wide variety of flavors, whatever your particular taste may be. Built Bar has you covered. They're all high in protein, high in fiber, low in sugar, keto approved, and great for whatever meal plan you are on. BuiltBar.com. Enter the promo code LOCKEDON15, and you will get 15% off your first order at BuiltBar.com.
Daniel, final questions for Josh about the analytics and statistics of these matchups of these two defenses.
Yeah, you mentioned low-scoring game, Josh, and I think that's interesting. I don't know that many people are leaning that way when they think about this game. I think again, national perceptions are Georgia's got an amazing defense, but Alabama's got this elite offense, this incredible offense. And Alabama's defense has struggled at times this year. And yet you're leaning low scoring. Any particular reason or any particular keys, I guess, for either defense or either offense matching up against the defense in order to break through and put points on the board?
Well, I know I talk about a lot of numbers, success rate, EPA, explosiveness, and all that. But if you just look at it and look at the success rate, but break it down, Alabama on offense is averaging 35 successful plays. Georgia's averaging 30. On the flip side, their defense is allowing 24. Georgia's allowing 19. So I think in both teams, if you look at the defensive numbers, Georgia is absolutely ridiculously elite on how many of those successful plays actually lead to points. They're averaging, for each successful play an offense runs against Georgia, they're averaging 0.35 points on the scoreboard. So you can see, 19 successful plays, 0.35. You can see 7.5 points allowed. So, and Alabama's good on that. They're not as good, but they're good and they're averaging 0.8. So I mean, it takes a lot of good plays on the offenses to score on these defenses. That's the number I want you to realize, and you got to string some good plays together. So I just think that the defenses are very smart and both well coached and very disciplined, and I think that it's going to take a bunch of plays to score on them, and I just don't know how many of them each offense can get on these defenses. So if Georgia can hold Alabama to 20, 24 successful plays, you're looking at a 17, they're not going to help, be that 0.35 point per successful play. They're going to be closer to the national average of 0.8. So yeah, we're looking at a 17 to 20 point, game for the Alabama offense. And I think Georgia can, if they can limit them, it's probably going to be close to a 50-50 success rate game on each side. I think that both teams are going to be in the mid 20s of successful plays. And it's just like, who can not give up the big play? And I like Georgia in that scenario. I'm thinking 27-21.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. To maybe put this into like grasping terms. If I was a boxing match and each successful blow was like a power strike, a power blow, you're telling me that it takes 3 successful power shots on Georgia's D to score a point against them.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way.
Okay.
That's a good analogy.
Is that, and I think I meant to ask you this last time you were on the podcast, because I think you gave us that stat last time, Josh, and it's mind-boggling to me. Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me. And so the question that keeps coming to my mind is that luck, or is there something to that? Because in my mind, if you give up a successful play, it's going to lead to points. And so maybe it's just Georgia's just gotten lucky, and so maybe they might regress to the mean, or do they do something particularly that helps limit, while it might give up a few successful plays, it helps limit points?
I think it's two things. I think that extraordinarily low number is factored into a bunch of drives that, like the Kentucky game, the Missouri game, and the Tennessee game, where those were a lot of plays that didn't lead to any points, or very few points. So I think that's that's helping that number a little bit, but it's still not going to regress all the way to even the good mean, which is 0.8. The bad, like I'm all the top 25 teams are in that 0.8 0.8 points per successful play allowed. So they're not going to regress all the way to that. Like Penn State's like is the next team behind Georgia, and they're full point, a quarter of a point worse than Georgia. So yeah, if we regress to that, to the second best team, which is, that's going to be really good for Georgia if we can, be as good as Penn State is in that stat.
Almost doubling how many, 0.3 to 0.6 around those numbers. So almost being a half the team that we've been all year. We're the second best defense, and we're going to give up that many points. I think we have a fighting shot. Any of your statistics or analysis, I see a bunch of people out there doing deep dive into analytics that are getting projections on the game. Do you get into that at all?
That's a whole different animal. I would love to say those guys are running models. They're doing some code. I literally think of myself as a stats sort of reporter more than I am like an analytics person. I enjoy looking at the numbers and organizing them and making data visualizations of them that don't require an XY scatter plot and a bunch of logos like they're hoping each other on it.
So what you're saying is you're more scientist and less magician. Is what you're saying to me right now.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, like the one thing that Graham and I do on our show, we like I go through the stats and he puts in context to it. It's a lot of fun because I'll put some stats together and paint sort of a picture of what the stats say is good, and then he'll come and find the actual plays. So it's a nice visual and metrics way to do it. Now, and I know today on Georgia Twitter that Parker, who is basically he's a statistician and is a TCU alum and stuff. He's really good. I mean, he's crunching a ton of numbers and he is actually projecting those. But I would love to try to do that. I mess around with it a little bit by trying to adjust for opponent. It's all really about adjusting for your opponent and who you played. And obviously the stats that Coastal Carolina is racking up aren't the same stats that Georgia's racking up. So,
that's right.
You can look at, both those teams have, like at one point, Coastal had a better net yards per play, but obviously they're not playing the same team. So that's really what those analytics do.
I believe the term is that they ain't played nobody Paul is the thing that you have to say after that. So, listen, it's
Murray ain't even a state, Paul.
This is not. These are two good defenses, but Clint and I think from talking to you a lot, it sounds like Josh, you're putting these. Are you willing to call? Are these like 1A and 1B type defenses? Are they that close? Well, because to me, I see two good defenses, but I see one game-changing defense, and I see one good SEC defense in this game.
I feel like, honestly, the script has been flipped. I think that just metrics-wise, I don't want to talk about the lineage and all the history and stuff like this. This is the type of defense that I feel like Georgia has come with, a really good defense going up against a better defense, and I think this year Georgia has the better defense on this Alabama team. And and they've got to prove it. They got to execute and do everything they've done for the previous 12 games. But I do feel like Georgia has a decided advantage on Alabama on the defensive side of the ball.
I will admit I have not watched enough Alabama to be an expert on Alabama, but I will tell you this: they ain't scoring no 21 points against this Georgia defense. They're not getting there. So tune in tomorrow, and Clint and I will give you our official predictions on the game. We've got scores. We've got things that we're leaning towards. We've got locks that we're going to give out. We also might sprinkle in a little this or that at the end of the episode tomorrow. And so check back in for that. Thanks for being here.
Josh, you want to hit the people really quick where they can find you?
Tell the people where they can find that, what you're up to.
My favorite space is Twitter, and I am at dog_stats. And then my good buddy Graham, Dog Out West, on Twitter, and I do a show called Dog Sports Live, which is on YouTube, and we put it on Twitter. And I write for dogsports.com. So thank you guys for letting me put those in there. We have a lot of fun. I know that you're a fan show, and that's what we do. Mm-hmm. We are Georgia fans, and we have fun, and we, just like you guys, we love interacting with you. So if you like Clint and Daniel, please check us out because we're doing a lot of fun stuff too.
Do that. Go watch those shows. Go read those articles. Go follow this man on Twitter. We will be back tomorrow and the rest of the week getting you ready for the SEC championship game, and we'll talk to you then.